Great. So today we still have the coronavirus, which we will have for another 3 to 5 years. So just relax and deal with it all the best you possibly can. Try and stay alive. Not much is being done for you, and no real major testing of effort is going about, and what is being done is being criticized by the president. So nothing's really being initiated in order to create a better scenario. Right now, the president is in process of eliminating Obamacare, and that would be a majority of the people who have insurance today would have no insurance, and they would have no way of dealing with the coronavirus in the middle of a pandemic. He does this. Yeah, and so he's putting these laws into effect. He's trying to get them passed. And while all of America is just like waking up and doing their thing, very little is being done about what it is that's causing your problems. So there's a lot of problems on this planet, and I've been here for many billions of years. Yeah, so my process is to help when times are really rough. I usually spend my time in the Himalayas. I usually spend my time in India. I do not spend a lot of time anywhere, because only up to the 1800s have we been settled down. We've been traveling in boats and taking over the continents and the earth as nations developed in their cultural, ways of control and materialism, So once that hit America, that affected the hierarchy because this is a very holy land, and we did our best to try and keep it that way. We were able to get the English out of India and fairly quickly. But they destroyed the Maharaj reality, and they destroyed the understanding of origins of all science and all language and where Christianity came from, which is India, billions of years ago. It started in India. So England went in and wiped that away. So all of us have a great deal of difficulty dealing with that there is any other person other than Jesus Christ who might be considered as the Son of God, let alone God might even have any direct effect on earth, or would God take a material form on earth. So that's been wiped out by England, and that's been wiped out by the Romans, and it's been wiped out by many historical realities back in culture where there was a lot of ignorance. So it was hit heavily in Tibet, it was hit heavily in China over the last 200 years, the wiping away of all religions and the wiping away of anything other than communism. So it's the wiping away of the Dharma. It's the wiping away of my actual incarnation. Do I incarnate? And on top of it, England says no, there is no such thing as an incarnation, nor do we want Jesus Christ back. So they make movies based on the killing of Jesus Christ if he comes to England. Many movies. The guy who starred in Doctor Who was in the last movie of killing Jesus Christ, and he was Jesus Christ. And people found out about it and got so ticked off because they didn't want anybody telling them what to do, even to bless them to a point of changing their world. They didn't want it. So that's the only thing they have to fear is God. That's what England said. The only thing we have to fear is God. Because then we'd have to consider God another person, another being. And we're not willing to do it. So they make the movie, and they kill him in a stadium, and everybody wakes up the next morning as though the world is better off. That's the movie. They no longer have this inner anxiety. This is what the movie's based on. The purpose of suffering and anxiety comes from God. That's what England said. Yeah. So then they wipe God out when Jesus returns. They kill him. And then the thing is that the symptom the day after is that their anxiety is gone. And they're a happier bunch of people. They can go about living, whatever they do. Yeah. But that feeling of their anxiety is gone. Yeah. So they fulfilled their mission as the Antichrist nation. Yeah, the Antichrist nation. And there's also another many Antichrist nations. Yeah, this is just one of them. Yeah. You can go to Italy. And it's an Antichrist nation. You can go to Paris, France. It's an Antichrist nation. You can go to China. It's an Antichrist nation. You can go to Russia. It's an Antichrist nation. Now you can go to America. And it's an Antichrist nation. We've elected an Antichrist. We elected someone who was obviously under delusions of grandeur as a king. And we thought, whoa, how lucky can we be to have a delusionary, grandiose king who feels he is, the only one anointed by God, just as a person would think when they're a king, that they're a king because God anointed them to be this king. Now they're in destiny. Yeah, just like Hitler was a king in destiny. Yeah, yeah, just like Mussolini was a king in destiny. Hirohito was a king in destiny. Yeah, Mao Zedong was a king in destiny. All these people lived at the same time. Yeah, and when you're beaten down by these people so much, when it comes back around as it is today, yeah. Now we have a guy who heads Russia. Well, you got to imagine he's a reincarnation of an extreme evil Stalin. Yeah. Doesn't take an idiot to figure that out. But we don't think in terms of reincarnation. Because we do not have the possibility of the incarnation of God. If there's no incarnation of God, then how can we be more control over the powers of nature, the powers of the universe, than God, by us reincarnating and God not incarnating? That's how we keep God from incarnating. Simply don't take the teaching of reincarnation. Because once you do that, you open your eyes to look and see, Jesus, who reincarnates? God would reincarnate. Jesus would reincarnate. Oh my God, this is a whole other world. Now I have an opportunity to look around. Look for the good in the world. Look for people who were previous saints. They're out there. Every Saint Teresa, yeah? They're there. They're walking the earth. And a lot of times they have the same name. Strange enough. Because God's in charge of this thing. No one comes up with the name for their children. No one comes up with the name for anything. Yeah? It comes out of the phenomenon of the Holy Spirit. Yeah? Something that makes us holy. So God gave us a Christian name. A name. Yeah? And that name isn't what you think. It has to do with your reincarnation. Yeah? No matter who you are, you may have, I'm an idiot, is your name. Well, guess what? You've been an idiot for a long time. Yeah? Or blunderhead, your last name. Yeah? Or ass in a hole. Yeah? Is your last name. How did you get that last name, ass in a hole? I don't know. It came with my first name, I am. I don't know. Yeah. But God loves this place. God incarnates. God gives you a name. Yeah. So God anoints you. Whatever level you're on, you get referenced by getting this crazy ass name. Yeah. And that comes with you, you know. You have all the right in the world to change your name. You know, totally, 100%. Nobody has a right to look down on you for thinking, asshole's not a good name. You know, I think I'm going to go with Stephanopoulos. I like that guy. Yeah, I want to be another one of them. You know, comb my hair and everything like a Stephanopoulos. Yeah. Or how about Kennedy? Whoa, maybe somebody will think I'm a family of the Kennedys. Yeah. Anything that comes to you changes you. Yeah. You change your clothes, you change yourself. You change your name, you change yourself. Yeah. Nothing is done without the Holy Spirit influencing you to do so. Or the evil spirit. What emphasizes your glamours when you start changing shit. You know, you'd be like a Trump. You don't, you know, you think you're changing, but you're really just building on the same thing. No changes at all. Yeah. Yeah. So everything is based on your elemental relationships, and changing your name can make a major difference in the process of your life. Yeah. But what if, you know, the almost everybody in this world, we're stuck in a scenario to where, you know, you just think it is what it is, yeah? You end up in L.A. and you go, wow, everybody's got a car and they're on the freeway, you know, it's hard and it's hot and it's dirty and it's polluted and, you know, well, you know, but my mom and dad lived here in St. Gabriel, you know, so I've got to, you know, kind of like somewhere live around here to be near the family and stuff, you know, and you find jobs, you find a way to survive, yeah, and you have no creative activity to make a change in your conditions. You're lucky if you think, oh, I think I'll buy a house. I think I'll find an apartment that fits my needs, you know? I think I'll find a location around here that would be more like near a park so I could be near nature. You know, you can make those changes just like you can change your name, you can change your clothes, you can do any of those things you could do freely, yeah? But it doesn't happen. People go to New York and stay in New York. People go to L.A., they stay in L.A. And L.A. what? Gets worse. New York gets older and worse and dirtier and does not get better. You put in one park, that park stays, luckily, but no other parks have been added. Yeah? More streets, more cars, more pollution, more high-rises to stack more people in. And then how do you live in that? How do you survive? How do you exist? You could be in a different world even though you're in the same world. Yeah? Yeah? Imagine you take those same high-rises and you put trees in every balcony. Yeah? And you grow ferns from the side of the building. And you hardly see the building anymore. It's just one great big-ass tree. You know? 1,000 trees all kind of growing into one great big building. Yeah? And people go, wow, that'll catch fire fast. You know? But yet, people have tried this and kind of find out through their creativity, their Holy Spirit, they come up with the ways to where it doesn't catch fire, it stays cooler, and people get healthier. The environment gets more psychologically balanced. The elements are more balanced. Yeah? You get cleaner air in the area. Yeah? Especially if you live in the building, you get clean air. Yeah? Because it's just absorbing everything and putting out more oxygen. Yeah? This stuff happens. Yeah? Let me show you this.
Isn't healthier and sustainable built environment. Architects, engineers and developers are creating increasingly greener structures and doing it in a more literal way than ever before. This is what happens when trees meet buildings.
Now this is my earth. Yeah? This is how I see it. Yeah? And I'm going to be here a long, long, long time. And I'm going to be out front. You know, whether it be this way or as time goes on, gazillions of people will know that I exist, and gazillions of people will come to me in my teaching. Yeah, and the process will become more wide known as a creative active intelligence of goodwill in action. Yeah, and it'll be every living human being will receive transmission of these really incredible ideas. Yeah, and it'll foster them to change the world that they live in right then and there, right there. Yeah, even if you're living in Silicon Valley, yeah, you might want to live in Silicon Valley because you can get a job at NASA. Yeah, you can get a job at any one of these Silicon Valley corporations, and you can get $100,000 a year. Usually, starting pay is $65,000. Yeah, so $65,000 a year. Imagine $65,000 a year. That's a lot of money. You're thinking in your head, that's a lot of money. Yeah, but consider, what if you're paying $6,500 a month? Yeah, $6,500 a month, and in 10 months, this is $65,000. Not enough to live in a house, yeah, or an apartment that costs $6,500 a month because you're living in this location. And it's going up 54% every 2 years, sometimes 200%. Yeah, and there's nothing you can do about it. Not a thing. But you can grab a van. Yeah, don't have a nervous breakdown. Yeah, do something creative. Yeah, go sleep in your car. Yeah, screw this. Yeah. You got a job in Silicon Valley, most of the time they feed you. Yeah, most of the time they got showers and gyms. So you can work out, you can shower, you can go to the gym. All you need is a bed. Yeah, place to sleep. So get yourself a van, get yourself something like that. Yeah, well, that kind of happened.
Many people have come here that their rents, just because of supply and demand, have gone through the roof.
The median rent for an apartment or house is $4,390 a month, a 54% jump since 2012.
It doesn't matter whether you make, you make $100,000 or not. You haven't planned for a 54% rent increase, and it's caused a lot of people to be displaced.
A small but growing number of the city's 80,000 residents are now living in recreational vehicles, vans, and cars, like these on the street next to a park.
Now, I explained this before, in relationship to real estate, buying land, and that whole illusion, that dream, the delusionary dream that literally gets pumped up, and then we go into a recession, then we go into this and that, and it's all based on housing. It's all based on the fact that our income is not great enough to the relationship of this delusionary dream that we're all sucked into. Doesn't matter who you are, you all need to rent a house, or you all need to buy a house. Yeah, we all do. So this is the first place we can be taken advantage of, and with something that we literally have to have. It's like air and water. Yeah, we have to have it. Yeah, every living human being, it's mandatory. Yeah, and as a human being, it should be something that comes with birth. Yeah, it's a birthright. Yeah, a birthright. Yeah, that you have a birthright to have a house, no matter where you go. Yeah, there should be a house. Yeah, and you should have the ability to pay for that house, or the house is free. Yeah, but you should have the ability to pay for the house. Yeah, and the house in itself should be sustainable. So here we are, 2020. Every house can be sustainable, no question about it. By the time we get to 2025, solar panels and electronics and the batteries, the lithium batteries, the package it takes to run a house will be so inexpensive, that when you buy a house for $20,000 and have it built for another $15,000 to $20,000, you got a $45,000 house, and now you put this complete electrical solar package in there that 20 years ago you couldn't get. There was no batteries. Solar was way too expensive. So this wasn't a creative option. It was an ideal. It wasn't something we actually could do. But we're in the year 2020, and we're going in to 2025. By the time we get to 225, solar panels and batteries will be dirt cheap. And the batteries that'll go in the cars that we're lucky to get 250 miles on will get 1,000 miles, the same number of batteries. Yeah? By the year 2022. 1,000 miles. Yeah? We'll reach 500 miles. Yeah? By the end of 2021. Yeah? 1,000 miles by the end of 2022. And solar panels, what used to cost $500 per panel, will cost you $35 per panel. Yeah? And your house may need 20 panels, maybe 50 panels. Yeah? But you have a battery system, so you're taking it in, you're holding it in, and you're using it quickly, so you need less on solar because you have your storage system. Yeah? And you're not using it that much because now you're using LEDs. Because we started that 20 years ago. But now everybody's got LEDs, yeah? And now we're going to go from using gas stoves and electric stoves that are standard to an induction stove, yeah? To where every time you turn that stove up, the amount of electricity that goes into it is so clearly specific that you can control the amount of electricity used in watts. Yeah? There's a 1,200 watt induction burner. Yeah? You put it on low, it's a 600 watt induction burner. Put it on medium, it's an 800 watt induction burner. 800 watts. That's very little electricity being used to create or cook anything. And it's going to cook 10 times faster and better than anything else you ever cooked with. Everybody will have the Holy Spirit come into them, and we will all see these things, and we will become simplified because we have choices that I provided. Yeah, they're getting smaller. I'm not giving wider number of choices. I'm giving smaller number of choices. Yeah, tiny house. Yeah, yeah, not big house, multiple house, super duper house, many kinds of house. Nope. Tiny house, and then add-on when you need an add-on. Maybe 2 tiny houses together. Yeah, yeah, but not keep mansion of 2 to 3 stories and the whole trip, 20 bathrooms. Yeah, it's absolutely outside of the Holy Spirit. Yeah, so the Holy Spirit will give us a minimum amount of what we need. Yeah, a minimum. And that's where our creativity will come in. We'll feel no need to go beyond the minimum. Yeah, we'll never reach maximum. Yeah, we may have a car that can do 150 miles an hour and reach that in 2 seconds. But our consciousness won't be driving like that. We won't be getting in a car going 120 miles an hour and drag racing everybody every time we push a pedal, even though it's there. Because our consciousness is changing. Yeah, we're becoming minimalist. Yeah, and that's what minimalism is. Yeah, it's a consciousness that comes from Christ. It's not what comes from 30-year-old people. This, whatever you want to call generations. It's not from that. Yeah, it's from Christ. Whether it be back at the First World War or the Second World War or the Third, where we're at now, or the influences of today. Yeah? It's all coming from Christ. It's not coming from a generation. And we have a tendency to think that that's the way it works. And it's not. Yeah? We're all affected by Christ, and we don't know the plan that's being worked out. So everybody's trying to figure it out. Oh, this is what's going on. Oh, these people act like this, so this is what's causing this. But it's not that at all. What's causing this is the outcome of Christ's consciousness to save the earth. We all have the question, how are we going to keep the environment safe? How are we going to have healthy children? How are we going to be healthy throughout our life? How are we going to stop having diabetes? How are we ever going to get someone to stop drinking? How are we ever going to get people to stop smoking? I did that. No one out there went, I'm going to stop smoking. I got them to stop smoking through the pressure of the energy of Christ. By people making that choice, it became a public awareness. And that public awareness is Christ consciousness. Anything in collective consciousness that becomes moved by Christ becomes public awareness, and it wipes away the cultures that are habitually destroying the culture. Yeah? So your culture could be a whole bunch of paranoid hypocrites, that think that they're the saviors of the earth, and they hate everybody. Yeah, and they got to wear black hats and curlies down the side of their face, and they're just hypocrites of the worst possible kind. Yeah, yeah, and they honestly believe that they're religiously connected, yeah, in some major super way. But all that is fanaticism, and try getting those people to change. They have no Holy Spirit to creative thought form building. Everything has to remain in inertia. Everything. So they're the slowest groups. Religious groups, dogmatic groups, fanatic groups, political groups, things like that don't take the Christ very easily. Yeah, they're not moved by that. But scientists are. Yeah? Revolutionary people who write, and come up with new ideas of sci-fi. Yeah? Yeah? New realms of understanding. Yeah? Those people are overwhelmingly moved by ways of putting things together. They actually research. Like the people who wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey. Yeah? He researched so much, yeah, that in his research, he put what he had in research into his books. And those things created the satellites that we have today. Created the ability for us to know how to get to the moon by H.G. Wells. He even wrote down trajectory, angle, velocity, what it required to get past the atmosphere, what it required to release from the gravitational pull. All these things were in this sci-fi book, yeah? But they were correct because he researched science as it was at that point, and he just put it ahead of a ways. We could use these tools and understandings to get to this new technology or these new advancements, yeah? So that was all in sci-fi, yeah? But that's all overshadowed in an influence to give creative, active intelligence into humanity. And when that happens, it changes it changes the whole world view. And we don't know that this is what's going on. Yeah? Because here we get books in the 1800s, and we start to apply it in 1969, when another book comes out and says 2001: A Space Odyssey, and we go, whoa, wow, we're going to do that? This is so great. A whole movie shows the whole thing rather than just H.G. Wells in a book. Yeah, now it's in a movie, and it's everything that's in that book. Yeah, but all of us have come through this process of creatively, actively moving from one life after another, helping to establish science, not religion. Yeah, but the truth. Yeah, yeah, wisdom. Yeah, the ability to incorporate many, many, many things that are found to be the truth. And slowly but surely, they lead you to a greater truth. Yeah, that's science. Science is a hypothesis. Yeah, science is a theory. Yeah, science is you go through these processes in order to get out of just speculation, jumping to conclusion, living in a fantasy, thinking that everything is as it should be already. Yeah, no new advancements could be brought about. The Earth is flat. Yeah. Yeah. If it wasn't for science, we'd still be thinking the Earth was flat. And who originally came up with the Earth is flat? Religion. Yeah. So everything is based on an enormous amount of higher consciousness or lower consciousness. And right now, we are being deeply influenced by the fact that Christ is physically incarnated on earth. So that's going to make major changes because humanity is in the process of receiving the blessings and they don't know it, just like they got an electric car. They didn't ask for it. Yeah? They crushed it. Humanity crushed it because they had no interest in leasing them or buying them. So what are you going to do? You got to crush them, let them go, because people just aren't interested. Yeah? And I brought that interest back. Yeah? I restarted it directly with Tesla, directly with the companies that needed to put it together. Yeah? And brought it out. And that furthered that, along with putting us into space with the same group of people. But no one was interested in going into space. No one. People just, well, you know, I don't know. I don't know if I want to be a spaceman. I don't know if I want to. No one had anything other than inertia going on from 1969 to now. You know, even in a shuttle, there's hardly anybody going, oh, I think I want to be an astronaut to go in a shuttle. Because that was so boring. Shuttle stuff. Yeah. We need something like is science. Yeah. To where we actually go someplace and we do scientific research while we're there, which is what we're going to do now. Now we're going to build labs. Now we're going to build large scientific research corporations on the moon. And that's going to start by the year 2021. And no one really knows this right now. This is all just between me and NASA and a whole bunch of other people that are financing this scenario. And directions are being moved away from Elon Musk, away from these other people who says, we got to go to Mars. And they're all going, no, we're getting that. We got to go to the moon. We need to focus on the moon, put our time in on the moon, and then we need to focus on the space station. But not the kind of space station we have. We need to focus on the scientific investigation of getting through space in anti-gravity and surviving, which means we have to have a space station or a ship that has a gravitational field to it. Yeah. And that's something that we're going to develop. But there's no process in Elon Musk that's going to do that. It's not part of his great big bullet. You know, he, as far as I can see, he sees it the same way the first people who thought of it, of shooting a bullet out of a gun or a cannon and have it go to the moon. They're at that level of understanding. Yeah, this is not how we're going to do this. Yeah, we're going to develop anti-gravity. Yeah, we're going to focus our attention on that while in an anti-gravity state, like in space. You can find very small measurements of change of gravity in something when you're in anti-gravity. So you can create technologies that will move things in an anti-gravity state. Yeah. And then you could do this on the moon because you're going to find that you're going to use the gravity of the planet to create an anti-gravity state. Yeah. And you're going to learn this in science. You're just going to learn it, you know. And that, so when they go to the moon, they develop that. They develop the ability to create vehicles that work in anti-gravity. Flying machines, yeah, machines, people that can actually get into it, yeah. And rather than having fossil fuel to lift off and come back to the earth and all those things, a regular instrument that use Tesla batteries in order to run it, you know, is running a magnetic field that is pulsed in a gyro state that creates an electromagnetic field of anti-gravity. This is going to be our future. Yeah? And we're going to move beyond the fact that we're using tires, yeah, or maybe using anti-gravity in order to go in a tube and travel 4,000 to 3,000 miles an hour. Yeah, that's part of this new anti-gravity state. The technologies that we must move into will get rid of airplanes. We'll get rid of a lot of things because it travels faster, safer, less polluting, highly efficient. Yeah. So this is what we're doing on Earth. And this is what we're going to do when we go into space. We're going to use anti-gravity to develop anti-gravity technology. Yeah? And we don't need to go to Mars to do this. We do not need terraforming. We do not need an ocean on Mars. We do not need 2 billion people or 2 million people living on Mars. You know, that's all just a sci-fi book that went wrong. It's not an outcome, yeah? True outcome has to do with the things we need to develop now, yeah? And that is new forms of transportation. Airplanes are not working. Spaceships are ridiculous. Shooting a person out of a cannon is ridiculous. You know, putting a person on a missile is ridiculous. You know, I mean, come on. It's just ridiculous. We can go to the next stage, yeah? But in doing this, we have to have an open mind of creativity. We can't have prejudice toward black people. We can't have prejudice toward races. We can't have weird stuff like homosexuality and then transgender development, yeah? We can't have any of that. It's not that there's laws or things like that can't be. But these things have to be healed. Yeah, because we're diseased. And while we're diseased, we'll be diseased mentally, emotionally, and physically. Yeah? And we could be led to believe in this dream. And that dream could be, oh, I'm in a boy's body, I should be a girl. Or maybe I should be a rock star. Or maybe you're just thinking of an image. It has nothing to do with reality. You think that image will make you better than what you are, yeah? A rock star, a rich person, whatever you have as your fantasy, as your delusionary glamour, yeah? And that's an illness. It's part of our illness, a misuse of psychicism. So it's by healing the psychicism that will heal all the problems, yeah? So some of the ways that gets done is by putting these trees where I said, you know, like working with the process of putting trees up and down buildings and working on changing traffic like this.
Bus or bike infrastructure, because you're actually getting more people into an area than you were previously with the on-street parking.
Because of the shelter-in-place order, it's been difficult to create any concrete economic data around the Market Street project. But around the world, evidence has been pretty strikingly positive.
It used to look like there's a parking lot with 75 cars parked here. So the city council proposed to take away like 60, so 15 left. And then the merchants here said, no, we want them all gone, because we're right off the pedestrianized zone where sales are better.
After central Madrid went car-free, with a pretty large swath of its downtown area now no access to cars, it's seen nearly a 10% boost to retail sales for businesses in that pedestrian zone. And it's also seen greenhouse gases drop by 32%.
That's a lot. That's a small little thing, yeah? And imagine you do this everywhere, yeah? Then you've changed everybody's, when they get out, rather than getting in a car, sitting in traffic, and not finding a place to park, and, you know, and then you just want to run in and get out, yeah? Because the environment is all just a bunch of buildings, and they want to sell you everything, and, you know, just get in, get out, yeah? If anything, you're going to go to a mall, and that's like insanity, yeah? Walking into a mall, it's just so bad. Yeah, but the lower nature you are, the more you love that mall. And you go in, you buy bags and bags and bags of it. Yeah, but the reason for that is because you're mentally unhealthy, and the mall is not making you any healthier. So it drives you to do more of your habitual behavior: drink, you know, just buy, you know, and come home and lay out and lay around and do nothing and just consume. Yeah. But if you change this, if you change it, yeah, and you make it to where as time goes on, we have buildings and people have houses and things like that, and they have trees all around it. Even if you're in the city, yeah, trees are everywhere. Yeah, trees are up and down the building, everywhere. Trees are where you used to have a mall, where you had, like San Francisco, Market Street, yeah. there's this main big-ass drag, and it's the worst place in the world to go. You don't want to drive down that. You don't want to go in there. It is horrifying, yeah? But yet, that's where you got to go to get from place to place, because those were businesses at, and yet there's no place to park. It's horrifying, yeah? So since 2009, they decided to block it off and make it without any cars, yeah? Make it only bicycles and pedestrians and buses, yeah? You know, so it's only a simple thoroughfare, yeah, going in and out, yeah. And they finally okayed it in 2019, 2009 to 2019. And if it hadn't been for the coronavirus, it probably would have taken 10 more years. But because of the coronavirus, the streets are already empty, yeah. And because of the coronavirus, this situation of closing down streets, putting trees on the street, making lanes for bicycles and pedestrians are happening everywhere. Yeah? Because nobody's there. And they're just doing this without the big confrontation of public people going in saying, hey, no, we don't want that. No, 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 don't do that. You know, they're moving it very quickly. Yeah? They've already done it in Glastonbury. Glastonbury used to be a place where you go down High Street, and it's really hard because there's trucks that go down there, there's cars that go down there, and then there's family that wants to walk down that street and visit all those nice places and go to the Abbey and everything. But yet it's a thoroughfare of cars. You know, and every time I go there, it's like impossible for you to imagine. There are cars on this street, but every day there are. Yeah. But not anymore. The street has been completely cleared of all cars. No trucks, no cars. Yeah? So that's a start now for Glastonbury. And there are many, many, many locations all throughout that are moving people into the area.
Launching the Better Market Street plan.
Well, another plan is in the works to transform San Francisco's Market Street.
It sure looks great on paper. A mega makeover of San Francisco's mid-Market Street.
Yep, that'll be New Market Street. And it'll turn out just like all the other places. Yeah, they'll find out, they complain because no one wants to change. If you ask people 20 years ago, you know, would you please not smoke in the library? You know, and they go, what? You know, okay, you know, kind of made sense. Can't talk, you know, there are certain places you could start to ask that, yeah? And those are one of the places, yeah? No smoking in the theater, no smoking in the library, okay? Well, basically hardly anybody smoked in the theater, hardly anybody smoked in the library. So that was easy to get past. Yeah, but yet people are going, my rights, my human rights. Who's to tell me, you know, how to smoke, how not to smoke, you know? My rights, my rights. I mean, I listened to it. I was born in that. You know, my mom was there. Everybody smoked around me but me. Every single person I knew, whether you were 15 years old or older, they all had a pack of cigarettes right here. They all carried them in their purse. They all had a cigarette in their mouth. They always had a cigarette in their hand. They always had an ashtray nearby. You know, and I had asthma. I had all kinds of problems. I could not breathe polluted air. Whether I had asthma or not, I could not breathe polluted air. You know, so it was deep in my mind that you people are killing yourself and you're harming me. So this has got to be the case for everybody. So this has to stop. So I boycotted cigarettes. I'd take the ashtrays and clean them and put them away. You know, I'd hide people's cigarettes. I wouldn't buy them when they asked. You know, that went on, you know, until I was finally kicked out of the house, you know, when I was 18, yeah, because they wanted to smoke. And by the time I was 18, no one was allowed to smoke in the house. You had to go outside. That was my rule. But by the time I was 18, this is 1969, already laws were being passed over limiting smoking in public areas. So my words were going out into mass incorporation, you know, because that's how it works. If Christ is incarnated, Christ needs to see change, yeah? Can't live with it, can't tolerate it, yeah? And yet it goes on and on and on. More and more and more stuff keeps happening. But yet I just witness it, and I just say, no, that's got to go. That cannot be. Yeah, and that included smoking cigarettes, eating sugar, yeah, eating white bread, yeah, eating candy, yeah, eating donuts, yeah, eating fast food out of hamburger joints and all that. Those were just getting started up in the 50s when I got there. There was Kentucky Fried Chicken started when I came along. Yeah, Burger King started when I came along. McDonald's started when I came along. You know, and I'm just going, no way. You people are all wrong on this one. You know, learn to cook. Make your own food. Limit your quality of what you're putting into it to be the highest quality. Yeah, I'd say stuff like that. Yeah, and that moved into people. You know, by the time we got into the 70s, there was an enormous number of change in cookbooks. Change in how you should eat organic, how you should eat light. Yeah, how you could change a gourmet meal from France that'll kill everybody dead on the spot. How you can turn that into a healthy meal and change every single bad thing in it into things that are good, and it won't change the flavor very much. Yeah, gourmet cooking. Yeah, but yet done in a way in which you're eating right, you're eating light, you're eating organic. Yeah, those books really started coming out, and it came out to health food stores by the time we got into 75. By 75, health food stores, co-ops had been organized throughout the United States in major communities. Yeah, it's all coming out of my very intolerant mind. Yeah, everybody else was tolerating it. Everybody except for me. I was in my own little place, gathering all my vitamins, gathering all my food, doing all my blending, working with specific people, you know, that knew all this stuff in the right way. Yeah, and that would affect the layers of humanity. Yeah, so imagine, I have gotten rid of cigarettes. Yeah, in the United States, very few people, mainly Native Americans, are the ones that smoke cigarettes now. Yeah, and that's going now. As of now, they've been told that they should not smoke cigarettes. They've been told that by me personally, and they're cutting it. Yeah, which is a really good thing. Yeah, but the process is to get to the point to where we can get all the things that I put out, which is sustainability, yeah, and minimalism. Yeah, and you have to have higher consciousness to receive telepathy, so that you're creative enough to make changes. You have to make changes. And it requires all these things, creative active intelligence. It requires all these things that I'm putting out constantly. I am constantly on a 24-hour basis, constantly studying and looking at things that are the right things to people to change in their minds, their emotions, and their physical well-being. Yeah? And these things pop up every single day. And I make a note of it. And I clarify it, and I say to myself, oh, that's brilliant. That's just like what I saw over here, and I bring those two things together, and within a short period of time, those elements come out into humanity, and people become very well aware of these things. Yet, while I'm looking for them, no one's aware of them, absolutely none. But if I gather them and collect them and research them, it becomes part of the consciousness of our culture. Yeah. It does, yeah. So imagine, here I've got this this process of trying to help now with your president, yeah, and trying to help everybody understand that we have a president, we can have many presidents, yeah, but the difficulty of having a president or dealing with this political scenario is that we're dealing with other nations, and many nations have people like Putin and people like the president of China who passed a bill so that he can never be he'll never have to be elected again. He is president until the day he dies. Now, no one says that in the news in America. No one mentions it. Yeah? But the president of China is forever. He is exactly the same as the guy in North Korea. He's forever. He's a dictator. Yeah? But your president won't tell you this. Even the people of the United States government won't put it into the news so that we're aware of it. Yeah? Because there is a relationship between evil. Yeah? And they like to hide each other and let it go about. And we have evil in America. And they are compatible with evil. So Trump really gets all excited when he's hanging out with Putin. And if he talks about Putin, he says, he's so strong, he's so powerful. Oh, he's so strong, he's so powerful. It's like he's in love with the man. Yeah? And it's the same with the Chinese. You know? He's so powerful. He knows, I trust him, you know, because this man is never going to lose his office. So just imagine his intention, you know. This guy's out in 4 years. He's a temporary idiot. Yeah, Trump. Yeah. The other guy, he's never going to come out. He's already made his scenario, and he's locked in. Yeah. You know, so he is 100% knowing that what he does is what's going to get done. Yeah. So his attitude and Putin's attitude, yeah, and whether it be France's attitude or Canada's attitude, they all have this primary ego that sets them alone. Yeah, not connected to others. Yeah, they're on their own, and we don't know that Putin is doing what he's doing. Yeah, people just found out recently that Putin's Russian government is paying military in Russia bounty when they kill American soldiers. Yeah, and none of you heard about that on the news. Yeah, but yet it's the truth, and it's been there for a long time. Yeah. And the truth doesn't get told to you. Yeah? So if you knew this truth and you see the president then go and talk with and invite Putin to Washington, go to Moscow and sit with Putin, you know, and then come out and say, well, I believe him more than I do the CIA. You know, CIA says, well, we honestly believe they did do things against us during the time of my election and made it possible for me to be elected. That's what Trump says, yeah? And he says, but they won't do anything to get me 30,000 or 30 whatever emails from Hillary Clinton, you know? Because he knows that they're messing around. He's asking that question because he knows that they're messing around. He wouldn't ask that question if he didn't know they were messing around. So when he goes there and he's responsible as the President of the United States to sit with this man and ask him, have you done this? And he did that. And when he was done with it, he came out and told everybody, I have sat with Putin, and he very strongly told me with great confidence that he had nothing to do with it. And I believe him. Yeah? And then later, he tells the press, oh, I made a mistake. I didn't mean I believe him. I meant to say I don't believe him. On a world platform, you don't make a mistake. Yeah, you don't do that. He told exactly what he did. Yeah, he is a treason person. Yeah, 24/7, every day, he is practicing treason. So now, since he is practicing treason so comically, so commonly, so every day since the day he got into the office, it is treason. Now, he has to turn at every person he talks to. That's treason. That's treason. Oh, that book that was written all about me, that's treason. Yeah? Oh, these people on the press, you know, they're saying something bad about Putin. That's treason. How is it you're saying something bad about Russia becomes treason in America? Yeah? That's because he is working for Russia. When he's done, he's going to build Trump Tower in Moscow. He's got a multi-billion-dollar business operation going on. Even before he became president, he says, I'm going to be the first president to become rich from being president. I'm going to make so much money from being president. He said that. It's on tape. Yeah? But you probably never saw it. You know, there's all this selected stuff. So imagine, here's our little Russia scenario.
And we are witnessing both today from Donald Trump. Desperate times for politically emasculated president, reduced to lying about his poll numbers, firing the pollsters who conducted polls that show him trailing Joe Biden by double digits, calling the newspaper that reported on his own administration's cyber war against Russia, quote, treasonous, and denying the story, a possible indication of his ongoing fear of angering Vladimir Putin. The Washington Post details the president's political desperation, writing this, quote, slumping in the polls and at war with his political rivals, President Trump has signaled a willingness to act with impunity in his drive for re-election. Taken together, Trump's recent actions set off new alarm bells among legal analysts and Trump's political rivals, who warn that the president and his aides have emerged from the scorched earth battle over the special counsel's 22-month investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election with a conviction that they need not feel constrained by the safeguards built into the nation's political system as they look to 2020. And if we are watching a president who is unconstrained by norms, then a blockbuster report from the New York Times should cause even more alarm. The reporting we're about to share with you earned the paper an accusation of committing treason from Donald Trump for publishing a story that would count as good news for any normal White House. It's about America, the good guys, strengthening our cyber offense against Russia. These days, the bad guys. Here's some of that story. Quote, the U.S. is stepping up digital incursions into Russia's electric power grid in a warning to President Vladimir Putin. But the story adds, quote, Pentagon and Intel officials describe broad hesitation to go into detail with Trump about operations against Russia for concern over his reaction and the possibility that he might countermand it or discuss it with foreign officials, as he did in 2017, when he mentioned a sensitive operation in Syria to the Russian foreign minister. And the aforementioned attack from the president for reporting that the U.S. is on offense against Russia. He wrote this, quote, this is a virtue act of treason by a once great paper, so desperate for a story, any story, even if bad for our country. Also, not true. Now, anyone trained in pattern recognition can see something pretty obvious from this president. Donald Trump is gleeful to be on offense against longtime U.S. allies, the FBI, DOJ, Congress, the island of Puerto Rico, Democrats, Republicans, actors, singers, the cast of Hamilton, the New York Times, CNN, really anyone except Russia.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I believe that President Putin really feels, and he feels strongly, that he did not meddle in our election. I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today. This is somebody that said, we have information on your opponent. Oh, let me call the FBI. Give me a break. Life doesn't work that way.
The FBI director says that's what should happen.
The FBI director is wrong.
Yep. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So we have all this going on, but the root of it are the witches and the warlocks. Yeah. The witches and warlocks that live in Glastonbury. The witches and warlocks that live in London. The witches and warlocks of England. Yeah. It's the witches and warlocks of England, yeah, that hold the reality of the rays of the lower body. They are the witches and warlocks. They have the covenant, yeah? And that covenant keeps every child in a state of curse because they're the ones who put the spells on them. Yeah? They're the ones who paid to take the soul. They were the ones who sacrificed the children or the cats or the animals for their witchcraft. They're the ones who use herbs and other things of matter in nature in order to change those things into spell-binding forces, changing all the elements in nature altogether as cursed. So if you eat something, you breathe something, you walk on something on this earth, You're cursed by these witches. Prasadam is important. Yeah? Listening to the things that I say about minimalism and witnessing the changes on earth that are happening because of Jesus Christ and his desire to destroy the incarnations of witches and warlocks and to end their lives, to be their last lives, for a long, long time. Hell has got a place for them. If you are a witch or a warlock, you will go to hell. You will be there for over 1,000 years with Satan. This whole thing is closing down. You'll be meeting Michael Jackson. You'll be dancing with Mussolini's ancient friends. Yeah? You'll be dealing with every evil aspect you ever conjured up on earth and witness it. That'll be your experience. But you will not be alive on earth, walking the streets as a witch or a warlock ever again. Because the process of reincarnation is God's choice. Yeah? And I've been sent here. And one of my great abilities is the ability to bless this planet and illuminate it to reincarnation and close the door to the astral plane. And that door is closed. So there is no re-entrance of any witch or warlock back to this earth, because they only live in the astral plane while they're living today, living in their house, eating their food, praising their cat, doing their witchcraft. They will live out this life, and it will be the last life for over 1,000 years. And we will be free to be educated in the higher sciences of God and the understanding of what is right and wrong, and reach minimalism by the year 2050, because all the witches and warlocks that are breathing today will stop breathing by that time. All of them. Ladies and men out there who are seducing young boys and girls and making them witches and warlocks, this is their last life too. So just know, everyone you recruit is going with you. And I'd wish you'd stop. I can't make you stop. I can't make people stop smoking. I can't make people stop. But people follow Christ, and I can prove it. People stopped smoking because of me, and it was witchcraft that got them to smoke. People are stopping drinking alcohol. Not completely, because they don't have the Christ spirit in them yet. The evilest of the evil comes from the lower nature of spirit. That's why alcohol is called spirits. It comes from the conjuring of spirit in order to seduce mankind so that they cannot have a clear mind and make good decisions. If you want a person to be ruined, their life, their job, everything, help them not make good decisions, give them a bottle of wine. Yeah? And within 3 hours, they will be much less a person than they were. And they can't drive. They can't take care of children. They can't remember to feed themselves. Give them another bottle of wine in a couple of days. And do this consistently. You'll find that you have a completely ruined world. Yeah? That's all you got to think about. Just what I just said. It's a real common sense thing. Yeah? Just raise yourself up to understanding that this stuff kills you. There's no benefit to wine. I don't care what demon told you, oh, it lowers your heart rate and makes you live longer. It calms you down, gives you peace, you know? Or maybe it has certain things in it that gives you certain things. Yeah? Yeah, like beers is anciently holy, or wine comes from a monastery, you know? or whiskey comes from being a really cool people, yeah, out of Kentucky or some shit. Yeah. It's ridiculousness. And it's ending. It's in the ending of this, and I say these things so that you'll see these things change. You're not choosing these things. I'm willing these things to change. Yeah? People have free will, but I'm here as a person. And I restrict my free will to minimalism. And because of collective consciousness, you cannot get me to change. And I can get you to change. Because my will is a lot stronger than yours. Yeah? All of your wills are very weak. Yeah? And what you need is the will of God. And if my will is the will of God, that instills in you, brings harmony to all the injustice and lack of freedom that you have fallen the path down to. Yeah? Yeah? And everything's all worked out. Every single thing is all worked out. Yeah? Now it's just a matter of people making choices to let things go. I will never eat another slice of processed bread again. Yeah? And it may take 3 or 4 years. But in time, nobody's going to be eating processed bread. Manufacturing plants for processed bread. Even processed meat will not be eaten. And we'll find local people who are growing just the amount that we need in our local area, and we'll be able to buy from them because we eat in moderation. Yeah? We may have 1 steak a week. Yeah? It's not going to take a whole lot of cows to do that. But if you eat ground beef 3 times a day, you know, like 3 great big hamburgers, you know, and then go have a steak, you know, and have your your steak for breakfast, you know, or have your sausages, you know, your big old thick beef sausages, you know. There's lean ways to eat. There's healthy ways to eat. Everything in moderation. And in the process of education, it all comes from the fact that I'm here. I'm experiencing it just as you are. Yeah. So this way we become Christ-like. That's the beginning of fellowship. Yeah? And we don't have a connection of fellowship. We have people like this lady who would sit there and tell the lady who came in to interview in Silicon Valley, you know, as to why is it people are living in trailers, you know, even though they got jobs, $100,000 a year, $60,000 a year, they're living in their car. She goes, well, you know, with a smile on her face, you know, and, you know, like she doesn't care at all, you know. And she points out that, well, they just didn't take into consideration the 54% increase in rent every year. How are you supposed to take that in consideration? Yeah? There is no real reality to that. There's no such thing, other than the fact that this is Silicon Valley, and this is all a delusion of grandeur. Yeah, and houses are selling for $1 million that have no structure to them, and they're only a 1-bedroom house. Yeah, and they're saying it's because people are willing to pay that much, and there's so few houses. It all makes sense in the area of money making in business. Yeah, you take advantage of those when there are fewer places to rent or to own. You know. So now you go, well, you know, I'll sell it to you, but I'm going to go over to the guy next door and buy it from him for $200,000 and do the same thing to the guy down the road and do the same thing to maybe another guy over here. And then a year later, seek out very rich people in Silicon Valley and say, hey, I got a house for you. I'll sell it to you for $800,000. And he only bought $200,000. But these people know this stuff. They're called real estate agents. Yeah? And they buy houses cheap and have them redone, or buy them or bring people who are from China or other countries who then are told that this is going up 200%. Hasn't really. only because they made it go up 200% last year by telling someone else exactly the same thing, that this has gone up 50% last year. By the next year, it's gone up 200% because of the same delusion, fabricating you're going to make a lot of money in this investment and take advantage. And actually, her nice way of saying this is, she says that they get disenfranchised or something. What's that when you dislocated or something like that? Anyway, you know, when you, it's a very uncaring way of talking, you know, when, oh, they just no longer have a place to live. That would be a nice thing to say, you know. They've been kicked out of their house and they're on the street, you know, because of this greed market that this person as mayor is allowing to take place, because they're getting more taxes from $1 million house than they did from a $200,000 house. So she has a nice, shiny, big, beautiful building and a great big car, and her income is going up skyrocket because she lives and is the mayor of Silicon Valley. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's not minimalism. Yeah. But in 25 years, laws will be put on the books where we are forced into minimalism and we are locked down on pricing of houses and the selling of houses. That'll happen. It'll just happen. And it'll happen in all major cities, all lower cities, because right now we're creating impoverished zones. Yeah, we have specific impoverished zones in cities. We have whole cities that are literally going into no money. They have nothing. They're going bankrupt. Yeah, just simply because of this real estate scenario, whether it be big business or little business, real estate scenario has to do more with where income is coming from. Yeah, like Silicon Valley. Yeah, there's a lot of income coming out of there, but it's not real income. Yeah, it has to do with, you know, money in an individual's hands, like Google. You know, gazillions of dollars in Google, and then they have 1,500 people working there, and they get stock in Google. So now they're millionaires, and they want to continue living and working in the location of their business. But in over a 5-year period, they went from being an average person making $100,000 a year to a person who makes $1 million a year. And they live in the same place. Yeah? So they decided, we're going to turn Silicon Valley into Google consciousness. Yeah? Where everybody has to accept the fact that we got to pay raises. Now the real estate agent wants that money. Yeah? They want our money, and we can't control that. Yeah. So just by us being rich, the real estate agent will say, "Oh, well, I won't sell you a $700,000 house. I'll sell you a $150 million house, and it's the same house. And you won't get that house unless you pay that price because you have this much money." Yeah. And that went on and on and on. Now all we see is motorhomes and cars and vans on the side of the street of people who actually lived in Silicon Valley but no longer can afford to live in Silicon Valley over a 3-year period. And that's because of what I just said. Yeah? It's because people built a place called Google. They built a place called Microsoft. They built a place called Apple. They built a place called Tesla. They did these things. They created an enormous amount of money, but they didn't remain minimalist. And you can be as rich as you want, but you have to be a minimalist or you'll ruin everybody's life. Yeah? You create a sense of inequality to the point that the real estate agent, by law, has the ability to flip right into your inequality and create social inequality. Yeah? And that's a nightmare. That's not a dream. That's a nightmare. And, you know, it's only now a furthering of a dream by those people in Silicon who are Tesla and who are all these big, that's, now they are the fulfillment of a dream, but that's not a real dream. You can't live a dream when other people are living a nightmare so you can have a dream. That's the astral plane. Yeah? So no matter how much money you make, no matter what your circumstances are, you must choose minimalism as life. You must. You can put all the money you want in the bank, but you must choose minimalism. Yeah, you can't buy a Learjet. You must use minimalism. You must think, okay, if I'm going to get around like that, how am I going to do it in a minimalist state? You know? And include other people into this and get it done, yeah? Which could be done. All we have to do is continue choosing minimalism. That would mean that you drive your own car. You buy an electric car. You drive that car. You choose where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. Well, it drives itself. It's all very minimalist and all very easy. And every single person can go that way. Yeah? It doesn't matter if you're the Kardashians. You don't need a $150,000 car. That is really a horrible thing. You can have the same $150,000 put into a car, and it's all electric, and it makes a proper statement, and you can go home to a non-mansion, into a 2-bedroom house, because you've only got a couple people in the house, you know, and, you know, drive your electric car, and you could still be the Kardashians. You could still live the life you want to live. But if you're going to go minimalism, you're going to shut down the door of many things that are choices that drives you to think you have to have a Learjet. You have to now have a yacht. You now have to have 20 cars, and none of them are electric. Yeah? And it's all because it's part of this astral plane process of people getting rich. And they drive you up into non-minimalistic life. Yeah? Does that make sense? Because it's opportunist. And there are all the people building the yachts, all the people building the planes, all the people building these things who are going to take the opportunity to get your billions of dollars and use it to finance the destruction of Earth. Yeah. And it's not right. We all have to be minimalist. It doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you're doing. All right, so now we're going to do puja. We taught about minimalism today. Okay. One of the things, before I start this meditation, one of the things that I've taught is that I've had previous incarnations that people are aware of. Most of them know of Buddha, most of them know of Jesus. Yeah, and because those are historically, there's information. Yeah, 2,500 years ago, and all of Buddhism and all the written literature that comes with that, it's easy for the Buddhists to recognize me as the teacher of those teachings. Yeah, so that's why I was enthroned. And then in Christianity, you know, my lifestyle, my life, you know, is identical, you know, in every way. So there's very little understood or recognized about Jesus. There's no written information. There's really very little, very, very little, only up to when I was around 9 to 11, and then after when I got home when I was 30. You know, so really not much information. So that's not a lot to, when Christ comes back, there's not a lot for you to go on to refer to. You know, is he similar, or is, you know, any of that. But I have another life, you know, and that life is Krishna. You know? And in that life, I actually wrote the books. Yeah, I wrote the book with Maitreya, yeah, which is very interesting. It's called Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, and it's in the Vedas. And the Vedas go back 5 billion years. That's a long ways. Yeah. Sumerians were taught by the Vedas. Yeah. The Hittites were taught by the Vedas. The Hebrews were originally created through the Vedas. Yeah. As due to England, they wiped out the recognition of the Vedas. They said it was all just myth. No real truth to it whatsoever, so don't bother. Yeah. But now the anthropologists and others have studied and looked and come to find out they're finding that through the book of Bhagavad Gita, through Krishna, they found out that Krishna was a greater scientist than any scientist or physicist that's been on this planet. He was able to give the exact mathematical equations of time and space relative to God. Yeah? Which is amazing. Amazing. And if you read it, you would actually be able to, if you understood physics or you understood astronomy and the relationship of time and evolution and all the things that are seemingly a kind of, we don't understand it. It's amazing, is there a real God, or any of that. But in that book, in the Bhagavad Gita alone, I talk about how I'm the creator and when I created, So I talk about how I was Vishnu, and at that time I was creating the cosmoses out of every breath. Galaxies, And every time I breathe in, they would come in. Every time I breathe out, they'd go out. And that took billions of years for each breath. So it's not like we think as humans, one day is 24 hours. One day is a 5 billion year period. That's long. But we're talking God. And relativity to time and space. And then when physicists looked at this, they found, wow, light and time and space kind of meet the equations of the Bhagavad Gita. So all the major physicists of the world and the highest minds of poets, all were students of the Bhagavad Gita. If you looked into it, you'd find out that Einstein was a student of the Bhagavad Gita. You'd find out that Tesla was a student of the Bhagavad Gita. You'd find out that many of the great poets and writers were students of the Bhagavad Gita. You'd find out many of the oldest presidents, including Lincoln, was a student of the Bhagavad Gita. That's hard to imagine. But the Bhagavad Gita was interpreted in many different languages. Prabhupada recently, in the 60s, interpreted them all from Hindi to English, so it could be recognized by anybody. And the Bhagavad Gita was written, interpreted into English back in the 20s. So it was available in libraries. It was available for people to read. And out of that influence is what kind of prepares the way for my work. Because if you read the Bhagavad Gita, you would understand why I say the things I say in my teachings. Why it is the world can't change according to my will. Why it is I don't ask anybody to, vote on making change or anything. I literally make the opportunity for you to awaken to the ability to vote and make a change. And for you to literally clarify your mind of what that change is. And if you're not clear enough to do that, I will create people that are clear enough to do that, and they will make the change without your awareness. And you will just benefit. And that'll happen in Congress, it'll happen in independent relationships of people of interest who are going to donate and do all kinds of things to do betterment for the world. But it's not because you're asking for it. As far as you're concerned, all things are fine. God's got this thing all worked out. We still have oxygen. We still have running water. Electricity still goes on. That's got to be just fine now. But it's not. It's not fine at all. And Jesus doesn't think it's fine at all. And Krishna doesn't think it's fine at all. Those are my incarnations. Yeah. So in this incarnation, when I went to Kathmandu and I met a man that was the head Swami there, Swami Dharma Jyoti. Yeah, and his relationship was that he was the #1 student to the Karmapa. And when the Karmapa was dying, he gave all of his empowerment books to Swami Dharma Jyoti and put them in his library. He took me to it and handed me all the books. And he said, these are all the Karmapa's books, and these are 3 of his 7 incarnations, are written by him in these books. So these are his transmissions that go back to him once he's found, and then he could read these books and he will transmit back to himself everything about what he's going through in this life and why. Because they're all prophecies about his future life. Talks about the demon that will be incarnated during this incarnation and all that stuff. So he was very thrilled over the fact that I was there, and I actually had one of the incarnations of the Karmapa with me. Yeah, the girl incarnation of the Karmapa. She was with me, and he was doing pujas over her every day. Yeah. So his process was that he really wanted to know what my tuku name is going to be. Yeah. And I told him that it was Sri Kalki Maitreya, Avatar. Yeah. And his eyes just lit up, and then he said, I need to stare, we need to look into each other's eyes, for a long time. And I thought, wow, okay, so I do that, and he's like that, and I'm like just looking at his eyes, it was weird, because when I was a kid, people used to go, oh, let's look at each other's eyes, it's weird shit, but that was long. He really kept going, and I wasn't allowed to turn away, he was receiving whatever there was, and he looked at me and goes, yes, you are Kalki Maitreya, the Avatar. And I said, yeah, I know, and then he said he was going to take me to all these places of Shiva and Vishnu and Krishna, which just so happened to be in the very area I was standing. Yeah. And he was very in charge of all the Shivites who came every year to do a ceremony to Shiva, hoping that Shiva would incarnate or Vishnu would, there'd be the incarnation. Yeah, so he's in charge of doing these ceremonies, of providing food and everything for the head swamis. And this is what's going on at that time. So he goes out and tells everybody, Kalki Maitreya Avatar has incarnated. Yeah, and that goes into everything. Yeah? So for about a month and a half, these pujas are going on and on and on. And I'm only focusing on all the names of the mother. And that's my job, yeah. And there are thousands of them, and I had no idea, and I had to say all of them correctly, every day, every morning before the sun came up. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, and this went on for 3 months, so that's a lot, yeah. But in that process, I'm actually taking from the moment all the way back to Brahma, yeah, when Vishnu was laying and a lotus came out of Vishnu's belly. The first manifestation of a human being was formed, and that was Brahma. Yeah, and in these pujas, I would constantly get this memory, of my first incarnation, and I go, what, out of a belly button, it's just like, but it's a man, and it's just the other way. I'm inside the body, and I'm connected to a belly button, and it's a girl, but I'm not inside the body. I'm outside the body, and I'm sitting on a lotus. And it comes from the belly button of God. Yeah. And I'm the first student of God, Brahma. Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and receiving all this. And while I'm doing these pujas, that's the only experience I'm having, is this experience of my first incarnation. Yeah. And that went on for 3 months, every day, all day long. Yeah. So that is what transmitted into when I do pujas, when I do talking, when I do anything. It's connected into that process that I've gone through, connecting my first incarnation, which is billions, I'm telling you, billions and billions and billions of years ago, was my first incarnation. And then that set seed on this earth, creating what I call minimalism. Yeah? Which is, minimalism means that everything comes from God. Yeah? But yet everything comes from the minimalist part of God. Yeah? Where everything then goes out and everybody gets it equally. Yeah? It's not heavy this way or too little that way, or maybe I didn't get enough, or I don't like that and I'd rather have something else. Yeah? But completely within the origins of everybody's belief, everybody's system. Yeah? It's the energy that comes with Brahma. So Brahma gives the laws of how to be a human being. Yeah? Then all those laws gets established by the incarnation of Sanat Kumara. Yeah? So here comes Brahma. Brahma's on a lotus sitting on a belly button, and then incarnates Sanat Kumara. Yeah? And that's the second incarnation. Yeah? And that's me. That's my name, Sanat Kumara. Yeah? So that's how I got this name, was from this Swami. And when going through all those meditations and everything, he turned to me and he called me Sanat Kumara. And I said, well, that's my name. He says, yeah, that's what you should call yourself, Sanat Kumara. Sanat Maitreya Kumara. Yeah? So I went from Kalki Maitreya avatar, and at the end of that, it became minimalized through meditation and previous life incarnation and all that I went through. And then him and I both agreeing to the fact that who I am physically in this incarnation is Sanat Kumara. Yeah? Middle name Maitreya. Yeah? Because those are the origins of the externalizations of Shiva. Yeah? Which was a surprise for me. And this man was a Shivite. Yeah? So he had all this. He was the master of an ashram, big ashram, the whole trip. Yeah? So he knew his stuff. And I'm just 30-year-old coming out of California, receiving teachings for the first time from anybody. Yeah? So that's how that originated. That's how I got to my name, Sanat Maitreya Kumara. And if you study the Bhagavad Gita, you'll find out that Krishna sat in his last days with Maitreya, and Krishna gave his entire life, which became the Bhagavad Gita, and he gave it to Maitreya, and Maitreya received it, and he was there for his death, and then he dies. But just before he dies, he turned to Maitreya and he says, do you remember you're the ancients of days, Sanat Kumara? You're me. And then he died. So that transferred from, here's the ancient of days, Maitreya, who has been Maitreya Rishi for hundreds of thousands of years in India, recognized as the oldest living yogi on earth, Maitreya Rishi, yeah, was recognized as being actually the original incarnation of Brahma that created Sanatan Dharma. Yeah? That everything is based on in Hinduism. All the Vedas is based on this person called Sanat Kumara creating minimalism, starting off by saying, no cannibalism. We need to have a little control here. And especially no eating children. Yeah? No eating bits and pieces of dead people. Yeah? Even if it's not for food, you still can't eat bits and pieces of your mother or your father or your aunt or your uncle or your dead ones. Yeah? Which is very common. It's very hard to get them to stop that. Yeah? Because they honestly believe they were transferring the spirit, and they didn't want to lose that potential gift, the last gift that they would be receiving from that person they loved. And they thought it was just like, oh, that would be terrible. That would be really terrible. And let them die and not have it be blessed by that, all that. So there was a lot in minimalism that I had to do for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, creating the Vedas. So all the teachings that are found in the Vedas are from me. Yeah. And it explains everything, all sciences, quantum physics, understanding of all the planets, the solar arrangements, and every single thing that we haven't even gotten to yet. But we will, and we'll do it a lot faster if people read the Vedas. Yeah. So I recommend that. Read the Vedas. Okay, now we'll do this. As Krishna, I called myself Super Soul. Yeah, that's kind of neat. Yeah. All right. So just repeat after me. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad. To guide me into the right activity of the plan. To clarify and stimulate my mind. To transmute and transform my feelings and emotions. To energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body. So there is a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. Through this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One. All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Take a deep breath. Okay, just relax. Okay, open your eyes. So there's a lot in the life of Jesus that a lot of people have been led to not research. You know, what happened to Jesus during the time that I was missing? And where was I? And yet there's an enormous amount of information based on me showing up in Srinagar and showing up in Tibet and going to India. And if you study it, and you really should, you would find that Jesus went to Krishna and focused on the temples of Krishna and the teachers at those temples who had the books of the Vedas, and he studied the Vedas. And he recapitulated who he was and how it is he is what he is, and became clear around that. And in that process of recapitulating the life of Krishna, which took about 5 years, after doing that, the Krishna life, which is life number 8, incarnation number 8. Then there's number 9. And number 9 was the incarnation of Buddha, Gautama Buddha, stated by Krishna himself. That yes, he will have an incarnation, he will have one that would be later, Kalki, and one that would be Buddha. So the influence of Buddha, why he would become Buddha, when he's Krishna and Godhead, and if you study it, he literally says he's Godhead. He says everything about what is God, what is creation, what is the maintenance of this creation, and how it is fulfilled by him coming into incarnation, life after life. And by coming into incarnation, he then instills his God consciousness into humanity because he incarnates as a human being. In the same fashion everybody else incarnates. He incarnates as a human being. Then he has to walk the earth as a human being. He has to eat food as a human being. Has to talk to people and see how they treat him. And all those things go on in process of him being a human being. So as Krishna, if you were to read Bhagavad Gita, if you were to read the Srimad Bhagavatam, if you were to take the time to look into it, you would find that the influences that Jesus was involved in was the influence of his incarnation of Buddha. He was recapitulating his incarnation as Krishna, but he's also needed to recapitulate his incarnation as Buddha. So that was one incarnation, which is Krishna, next incarnation, which was Buddha, which was only 500 years before Jesus. So that's why it's so important for you to understand, that Jesus was a Buddhist and that he was to bring the influence of Godhead as the incarnation and bring that through the recapitulation and the teachings and the consciousness of Buddhahood and the influence of bodhicitta, bodhisattva, Buddhahood. And that's the life of of the incarnation of the avatar. Every life, it's a life of a bodhisattva, no matter who he is. He is taking that life as a merciful being. So in that mercy, he's behaving in bodhisattva form, bodhicitta form. He takes physical form, and in that form, he then illustrates the impression of God on earth. So that process is to change the influences that go on earth, people not aware of the fact that there are demigods and divas, that manifest through the earth as beings. And it's not something that people recognize, but it's something God recognizes, because it's been there since the beginning of time. It is the process between God and evil. And the influences that took place during the time of Krishna started from his birth all the way to his death. And if you were to study Krishna, you would find how the pyramids got built. How was it possible people would work that hard to build structures known as the pyramids? And this is done hundreds of thousands of years ago, 50,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, and up to 5,000 years ago during the birth of Krishna. So leading all the way up to Krishna was these incredible stoneworks that were done by the Vedic disciples, that were the disciples of Sanat-Kumara. For the hundreds of thousands of years that Sanat-Kumara has been teaching through the earth through Maitreya, those teachings illustrated people to become artisans and create God-formed temples and manifest the earth into a temple, using all the divine understanding of astronomy, physics, quantum physics, everything all the way to what makes our computers work, how we can make software. All of that is built into those temples. The entire design of the temples, that's back hundreds of thousands of years ago by Sanat-Kumara. So the temples aren't what you think they are. The temples are science, illustrated in science, perfect science. And it looks like a temple of gods and goddesses and animals and all the things of that nature, but it's what surrounds the temple. It's the temple building that is the real reality. So we see a great pyramid after that period of time, located in Egypt. And people, because they don't believe in the Vedas, they don't believe that Egypt was created by the Vedas. They don't believe that Israel and Judaism was created by the Vedas, or Sumeria was established by the Vedas. But it's all true. It all was done that way. So we will never understand anything. The Aztecs, the Mayans, the Indians, all things that have to do with ancient sacred temple building. We'll never understand it until we understand the incarnation of Krishna, the incarnation of Sanat-Kumara, the personal reason as to why Maitreya is here, who really was Jesus the Christ, and who was Gautama Buddha. All of them, same person, just different incarnations, but facilitating the process of temple building. The process of the fact that we're on a temple and we have no idea of it. So we have virtues that could be manifest in minimalism because God has sealed us inside a template, a perfect template. The earth, the moon, its position and all the positions of all the stars and all the galaxies are under Krishna's control. All of it. And if you think in forms of minimalism, minimalism would mean now we're looking at just Earth. Not all this big stuff. That would not be minimalism. But Earth is minimalism, and drawing the moon to a specific course and an influence of our solar system to a specific course, we can identify with that reality and come to know God. If we look outside that, it's too big for us. We have to use minimalism in order to understand that God is creating this, maintaining this, and is in process right now of judging it. So there's a purification of the process that's happening on earth. Now, go back to the time of Jesus. You see that in his process, when I came back at 30 years old, I walked down that road and I saw these fishermen. And these fishermen were reincarnate tukus. So I just walked up to them without any question and said, you are all meant to be incarnated as my disciple. And that was shock to them. Like, are you kidding me? I'm a fisherman. This is what I do. And I said, nope, you don't do that. You actually are my disciple. Yeah? And I am a master. And you are my disciple. This is just talking to tukus who had in previous lives been his disciple. Yeah? So drawing them together, those 12 disciples, which were actually, there were hundreds, but those were of the 12 that people know of. Yeah? Drew those together, and as a principle of how things work, they were all fishermen. Yeah? And that fit right into the Christian reality, yeah, of fishermen. Yeah? That the influence of casting out and seeking and getting fish has to do with the ability to be patient, the ability to know what you're doing, the ability to communicate properly with where you're at, the fish, everything. The calmer you are, the better those fish go on the line. Yeah, so all of that works together, whether you're in a stream or in the ocean, all of that has to do with your peace. So these are people who do that sort of life. Yeah, so his influence was to bring them, take them, move along on down the road and continue teaching. And then they get to a point to where they're in Nazareth, and they're sitting in that situation where there are more demons than you could ever imagine. You know, they're surrounded everywhere. People, my mother, my relatives, they're not demons, but they're possessed by the influences of the Pharisees and the demonic aspects that were going on, because there were so many witches and warlocks. Just as many as there were people who believed in God, there were people who believed in the devil. And they put curses on people as witches and warlocks. And they did spells with fallen angels and names and things that they found that might give them power. All that happened there. Yeah. And the one that was the worst of the worst was Mary Magdalena. And people know of this lady, Mary Magdalena. She was a prostitute, a whore. And her thing was that it wasn't just about her making money and making a living. You know? It was about her ruining the lives of men and women. And that she had no heart that told her different. All she had was her seductive Lilith quality, which is part and parcel of either you're under the influence of Lucifer or you're under the influence of Lilith. And she was overwhelmingly under the influence of Lilith. Yeah? So, as in the Bible, it says she had more demons than he'd ever come across. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, they kept coming and going. Yeah? And to exercise them, they would come right back. Yeah? So everybody had this delusion that somehow she was some kind of a disciple. But in reality, she was the number one person to distract everybody from Jesus. Yeah? And that influenced the reality of all the 12 disciples and their ability to become a disciple. Was by her process of being there and having not cleansed herself prior to coming into any relationship to me. Yeah, that process was to bring in all the demons that she had cursed into man and woman throughout her entire life. All those demons was the impurities that were then put upon me. So I let her wash my feet. Yeah, and that would bring the same impurities into me, but I would heal them. And I wouldn't take on those demons, and that wouldn't heal her from those demons, but it would keep those demons from going into other people. So slowly but surely in that life, it was not what people thought. Now, that life had Judas, it had Mary Magdalena, it had 12 disciples that could not hold anything toward their faith in Jesus. They couldn't do it. Yeah, read the Bible, it'll say that all the way through. Even to the last day that Jesus was, the day before he was going to go on the cross, just a few days before that, he asked his disciples, who do you think I am? Who am I to you? Yeah? And only one or two of them could refer to the reality of being the Christ. Yeah? The rest of them just said, "Oh, you're a master. You're maybe the Messiah." But at that time, there were so many messiahs. There were everywhere. There was messiahs. So knowing who I was impossible due to the people and relationships that were surrounding me. So that's what got me on the cross. Judas sold me out. All the rest of them wouldn't show up in order to move everybody to say, "Hey, let's not put him on the cross." Not one of them showed up to say that. They all just ran away, hid their heads, and said nothing. So those are relationships of what goes on in the reality of a tuku. It's difficult. And in order to bring oneself up, they must reduce their impurities quickly. I spent 3 years with these people. And I had to leave many times and go 40 days, 30 days away, not tell them where I was going, not tell them why I left. I just would leave. They didn't know why. And every single time, they would sit there and belittle me and think of faults and go, "Well, with that having gone on and this and, all that, I'm not sure if he is who he says he is or who I maybe think he is, and all that." So all this self-doubt of both me and themselves was built up by the time I got back. So there wasn't any purification. There wasn't anything for them to go through and make changes. So the outcome of what took place with Jesus Christ is mainly due to the reality of the impurities of the location. Judah, the Jewish relationship, the Egypt relationship, the Pharaoh relationship, all those relationships had everything to do with why I would have been put on the cross. And then the end of that was that was not the end. And that's what I was explaining to them throughout the whole time. I'm going to go through all this. I will suffer, and you will see me heal people, resurrect the dead, and all of that, because this is what I can do. This is who I am. So I'm going to get through all this, and I'm going to be killed, and I will come back. And that's going to be a major surprise to all of you. You're going to think this is like it. This is the revelation we're waiting for, the resurrection. But that really wasn't the point to me. The resurrection wasn't the point. The resurrection was my freedom. It was eliminating every single relationship I had around me at that time. I was reborn. And I was reborn into a whole new series of relationships that were purified, waiting for me in a different place. And they were Jews too. They were from Moses. They were all of his people. They were in Srinagar waiting for me to show up. Totally the same group of people, but the pure ones, the purified group. Not the people where I was at. Not my mom, not my cousins, everybody, because they were located in that area, and that area was held down by all the demons, Herod, everybody you can ever imagine. So nobody was pure enough to receive this light and to make the transition of the fact that Christ is incarnated, now we can become his student. That was impossible, literally impossible. So I walked away and I went to Srinagar. Now everybody, all of you need to study this. You need to study this so that you can be prepared for the reality that you are not purified. And that's why I'm not in your life. And I choose that. I choose. Just like I'm asking you to choose. You have to choose. And so I will come. I will come into your life. I will be in every state. I will be at every major city, in time. But not until you're purified. Because everything will just turn into chaos. And you will not have a clear mind. You will not have a clear heart. Even disciples around me all have to be more purified. And that's a process that I'm providing into this, and it's not something that you have to worry about, but you have to look at anything that that may cause impurity, like Mary Magdalene's situation or any of the disciples and their doubting mind, how it would lead them to darkness, how it would lead them to substituting hope, and inspiration and revelation for their own perception, for their own view, rather than having a little faith long enough to gain the view that I give. And if people held that purity, you would be receiving my view much faster. Yeah? So I'm saying all these things so that you realize what it is that's keeping this door open and keeping people in an impure state. And mainly it's the witches and the warlocks, but it's also people who do not realize that they're doing impure things. And they have to not only reduce it, but they have to eliminate it. Yeah? There's no way that you can have relationships with people who are impure and not be impure yourself. I can go to Israel. I can want to hang out with my parents or my mother or my friends and my family. But if it's impure, I cannot. And that will give them the choice to leave too, which they did. If you look in history, Mary and everybody else left right after me. Yeah? And they followed on to India, and they followed into other areas. They did not stay in Israel. They didn't die there. Yeah? So it's a lesson everybody needs to learn. Here I am, I'm incarnated, yeah? And we need to get past a lot of these things that keep the externalization from happening, and that's mainly impurities. People have impurities, and you need to recognize those impurities and take the opportunity to don't carry them out. It's your desire body that carries them out. They literally manifest into your cosmic realm, and they become opportunities. And you think, well, God must be manifesting this for me because it's happening. And that's not how it works. If you have the door in the astral plane open, there are all kinds of demons just waiting to set up all kinds of very impure circumstances in your life that will come in and create chaos. And you'll think it's God, just because you have a deluded state of wanting to fulfill your desires rather than listen to me. Yeah. So it's important to listen to me. It's really important to understand impurities. Drinking, 0. You cannot drink 1 drop. Not an ounce, not a shot, not a glass, not a sniff, nothing. Yeah. Can't have it in the house. Yeah. You can't go to a bar and think, oh, I'll just have a beer or two. Yeah. Nothing. Not part of it. Yeah. And once you make these decisions, you'll raise people up. You just don't know that you're actually moving people into their impurities by cooperating with it, by tolerating it, and tempting yourself into thinking, oh, God's working it out. God's blessing me through this. So many Christians are led by Trump and led by a dogmatic reality that doesn't exist. And it is the biggest astral plane door process we've got going on. And we need to, if you're Christians, you need to brighten up and raise your consciousness into study, into Vedas, into study, into earth reality, into history, ancient history, archaeology, anthropology. Look back. Shock yourself to the reality of giants. Shock yourself to the reality of this earth, that we are billions and billions of years old. Shock yourself, yeah, so that you can come to realize and then allow me to be your teacher. Because all this stuff has to be known and understood, so we will end racism, we will end any dogma that we have going on, because if we can't link to the past and have it in our present body, we will always be disconnected to what we're supposed to do in the future. Our telepathy connects us to our past. That's how it works. We all have knowledge and ability. We built the temples. We did all the statues. We did all the most beautiful things on earth. We created this earth the way it is. Yeah? All the things we look at that we dig up and we go, how is that possible? You built it. You just got stupider. You got ignorant. You became witches and warlocks. Yeah? And you were cursed by that process. So now you need to just focus on the reality that Buddha was an incarnation, Krishna was an incarnation, Jesus was an incarnation, this present incarnation is an incarnation. Hundreds of incarnations have I had between all of those, yeah, being very busy and establishing things that we will now come to know the sciences, the technologies, the advancements, even the new forms of religion in Tibetan Buddhism. It's all founded by me. Yeah? And you need to be open-minded so you can receive those blessings because they're your past. Not this stupid, crazy stuff that only goes back a couple hundred years or even less because you think you only incarnate once. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you very much and enjoy.